Welcome to 221B Baker Street by way of the Southgate Bridge. I am Sherlock Holmes. Watson is still on assignment in India, but we have, of course, don't mock the intro, we have everyone's favorite regular irregular, Karen Vera.
Hello, Zach, and I'm glad the show is back. Let's talk some elementary.
Yes, and a completely Moreland-free episode.
Yes, but you know what? This case was so well done. I mean, the progress of the case in the episode.
Crazy.
It's a great show.
But first, we start off with apparently the captain's got some information for Joan.
Yes, this delves into why, a scene later on where Sherlock explains why it's good to be an inspiring character. But for now, Joan is shocked and she's assuming that Sherlock will be horrified that this has happened. And and yeah, there's lots of humor coming out of this as the episode unravels.
You know, when he says beautiful Chinese American woman, I just got this picture of Watson in my head going, "You think I'm beautiful?"
Yeah, and knows martial arts, and that story was so funny. But I thought initially that this novel that comes out and it's written later, I'll find out it's written by her father, was like a throwaway B story of the episode, but it turns out there's a nice parallel to the A story, which is a murder we're going to discuss coming up, and it's paralleled beautifully. So I can't wait to get that discussion going with you.
I kind of want to. I hope they do the same thing that Castle does and make these books real.
There are two elementary novelizations as far as I know. It's not related to the episodes, but directly. But the characters of Sherlock, as played by Johnny Lee Miller, and Watson, played by Lucy Liu, they're out there. I've seen them. I haven't read them.
Well, what's interesting,
they exist out there.
What's interesting is in this episode we got a lot of references to stuff we never saw. Like she talks about how much like Holmes apparently we never met the father, but apparently Holmes did at some relative's funeral.
Yes. That was played comedically by Lucy Liu. That was really funny.
And so we get to a scene of some kind of landscaper, and we get the nicest boss ever. When they find the bloody badge and all the guts and stuff, I just want to do something like, we can still keep working. Like, no, we can't. He's like, load it. Oh, and the guy just shoves his hand in a wood chipper. Oh,
I know. I thought, is this gonna end really, really gross? But no, I was in suspense there. Like, no, there's no shredded hands in this episode if I could. And the other funny thing is it pans to the to this little truck where it's all bloody, and it's like, my God, that's that commitment to showing how gross this was really up there. And yeah, I was like horrified, and like, that was nasty. That little pan to the receiving little truck area where you see all the guts and blood. It was really bad.
They had to really bag it.
Oh yeah. And then the next thing is that it's all in the little baggies, and like and some prop guy had to make fake guts in many plastic bags. That was like, I'm sure it was a cool gig for the day. And Sherlock is so gross. He just opens it and sniffs them. It's like, oh, but Johnny Lee Miller's like, and this has smells of pepper spray. So he was so matter of fact about it. And I would probably I could feel Bell and Gregson's like, is he really sniffing and opening it?
Oh man. Yeah,
so that was a fun scene.
Apparently, whoever killed him used pepper spray. I mean, he also able to deduce that there was no wedding ring, so the wife could be a suspect.
And then there's latex and foil, so he's probably separated from his wife, or he's probably divorced or ready for some fun.
But at least he practices safe sex.
A lesson for us all.
Indeed. Even in death, practice safe sex.
And in chopped up body parts, practice safe sex.
So now, what I like about this scene when they confront the wife is that she's not really offended or even surprised with the questions. Being the wife of someone who's a career FBI agent, she knows they have to ask her, and she was ready with the alibi. Turns out they were estranged. He was obsessed with his work, which is probably why he got killed, because he was on the trail of some cases.
Yes. Yeah, I like that character moment. I mean, even just the actress just saying that exposition of, oh, this is I was here, I had train tickets. You already sort of had the intuition that she's an FBI wife. She knows how it's done, and so that is great writing from the team.
Can you? And now, so of course, we get the B, like you said, B story. Watson goes to confront her father. You gotta kind of wonder because the thing they don't really address here, but what the frick is it like being married to Mary Watson?
Yeah. Well, Joan explained earlier. She liked her stepfather because he's a free spirit. He did that's what he wanted. He probably he's an author. So it's an opposites attract kind of marriage, I suppose. And Joan appreciated that her mother married somebody who would balance her out.
I still kind of wonder if we're ever going to meet her real. I mean, I bet we will some episode.
Probably. I'm sure it's gonna come down the line, but this whole scene had that. Even the way Lucy Liu delivered, like, that's not how you do a pen name. That's how you do your report. That's like I cracked up at
can we
that
make
delivery.
That he's writing he wrote a sex scene about a character he said is inspired by his daughter.
Okay, I have two minds about that. Yes, it's gross and nasty, but as a writer, you're creating something that's just not really directly emotionally connected to you sometimes, even though it's inspired by real people or real people in your life. So I sort of understood that in a sense that it's not that gross, but on the surface of it, it could be quite nasty.
Yeah.
So maybe they played it for that joke. Totally, I wouldn't put it past Elementary.
I wouldn't be surprised. So she asked pretty much the same thing. She says she's offended because it's ridiculous, and we find out later that there's more to it. So after dealing with asking her dad to stop the book, she goes back to the brownstone. Sherlock is and I like how she's like, "Yeah, got your text. What FBI agent would chipper?"
Yeah.
And Sherlock, I mean, I'm loving Johnny's episode. He's downright giddy.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I mean, I was asking on our Facebook group where we discuss a lot of Elementary. Like, has Johnny Lee Miller Shark ever laughed in the show? And it's been 4 seasons and he's never laughed. But here, it's the closest we're ever gonna get to him laughing. Yeah, yes, and yeah, he was giddy. He was like, even the way he was attacking his yogurt was hilarious to me because and Lucy, Watson, this is where this is happening. And so he was just so excited to, reveal the findings he had to Watson.
He doesn't laugh, but I'm pretty sure many times he's like, I guess the word is chortled, like,
I love it when Johnny Lee Miller does it.
Which to him is laughing hysterically,
Yes. I mean, we've come to sort of understand that about this interpretation of Sherlock, which makes me appreciate how they've built this and developed this character even more. Yes, we know when he's chortling, we can sense, oh, Sherlock's gonna be like this, and we see it perform very well. So yeah, it's one of this why I keep returning to the show, because I love that kind of expectation and surprise at the same time. So this scene was really I enjoyed it a lot. So it was really funny and useful, of course.
I love how Sherlock this was his agents. These were his white whales. The 3 biggest cases they could never solve. Sherlock solved it in a few hours.
Yes. Well, of course, he's Sherlock. So, and one of the things I like about this overall over the 4 seasons of Elementary is they saw Sherlock disciplined in the investigation. You show how he connects things, how he puts things together, how he makes some deductions and puts makes all these connections. Because I think that's the difference between Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock, where he just has some magic pixie dust, like, oh, mind palace, I remembered everything and this is how it's solved, which frustrates me a lot compared to what we see in Elementary. So I think this is like the writers of the show have taken pains to show you how the logic works, how it can be realistic from a super smart detective to find these unlikely connections and solve something. And he can do it really fast because he's been doing it for years. So that's really a big advantage of this writing for Sherlock than the other Sherlock I've only seen, a few other Sherlock things like the Robert Downey Jr. movies. I've seen the Sherlock Hemlock of Sesame Street. I've seen a few other things, but yeah, this is really, I think, the prime Sherlock that is well developed and so entertaining, and a really excellent portrayal by Johnny Lee Miller.
So yeah, so after in solving the cases, he realized that anyone that would have had a motive from those cases in killing the agent is either dead or has an alibi or is in prison or it's not. So then he finds out there was another case that wasn't at the agent's home. So he looks into it. Turns out it was a missing girl case,
Yes.
and he believes it makes sense. So they go and they talk to the girl. They talk to the family. Apparently the girl was abducted, and the FBI agent was the one working the case, and that she showed up, escaped her captor. Sure.
Yes.
And Holmes listens to everything, and
Yes.
the second he meets her, he says to everyone that it's the case is that the girl is an imposter.
Yep. And then you can see Belle's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, so it's an imposter, and it's a nice callback to the Ears to You episode, which I think
I was
came out
thinking
in
about
season
that one,
two, right? Where the ears really might be a more definitive way of identifying a person than sometimes DNA. And yeah, that was Belle is like, oh, again, he has to portray some incredulity at, well, Sherlock's already figured out something that's bizarre, and then it plays out later when they have a theory, when they're discussing theories of what happened. Again, Belle and Sherlock go like, I have a theory, and yeah, so that's where they have an opening to how to potentially find the FBI agent's killer is, because this might be an imposter, and that gets the ball rolling.
About the ears, I think it's obvious something that has to do with post production, because Gregson says they look exactly the same when they clearly don't. One's an attached earlobe, the other one's detached, and the inside doesn't look at all similar. But it's probably because he's not really looking at anything right there.
And there's two things as well that come into play with this. One was that the father who said he felt guilt because he's the one who missed picking her up. So that adds to him, I think, more readily accepting that his daughter's been found, and he might overlook a lot of missing gaps in the story. And then Gregson also says, again, as a father, I'm the only parent here. So I think that, that might trump some differences in fish anatomy. So this whole episode is really about fathers and daughters in both the A story and the B story, as I mentioned at the top of the discussion. And it's really a brilliant piece of writing that you can find these parallels in a crime and something that might be unrelated totally, but it's about fathers and daughters for 1 hour.
Yeah. So Jiminy Cricket comes in with his daughter, and it's like they're all, because they just want to because this is one of those moments where it's great when it was the rewatch. It's like, she wanted to be brave. Oh yeah, brave, you dumb son of.
Yeah, and so this is where what are you okay? And this is where we decide to come into the police station. Is that where we're at now?
Yes, like I said, the father, they've just come in. Sherlock is now interviewing the daughter.
No, but there's also the pleasure of like, oh, you brought your daughter.
Yeah.
And you can see like Sherlock's probably, I'll take care of the daughter. You guys talk to the parents.
I love him. I love how she listens to her whole story.
Yes.
And just lets it all out. And it's like, oh, you just want to look for protection. She's like, huh? She didn't even flinch though.
Yeah. Yes, that's why this actress is really good. I mean, wow. Yeah. So Sherlock, and I can see like Sherlock's like his inner chortle, or his eyes are like, all ablaze because keep talking because let's see how big a lie you can expand on this, and I think he enjoyed just how much BS the girl can put out there, and the girl, stays on course like a true con artist. Don't show your hand so fast, and she keeps can see her also her own character finding, okay, if he's discovered this part of the story, I can move to plan B right away. So yes, this is really, really well added.
I know you confront her. He's just like, oh, you think, yes, by the line too.
He's more, more being, there's a dumb criminal. He's like, if it's like, let me let me get a little more teeth. Yeah.
Exactly. So the obviously parents have like they just do the whole stay away from God, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. So we then that gives again we see Sherlock's intelligent and savvy in the next
He
weeks
makes
where
poop coffee.
he when the oh my
I looked it
god
up.
and
That well, see, I about the one they do with monkeys, and
yes,
apparently
that's
I
in
didn't know there was.
Indonesia, but he
I
said
didn't.
elephants in
Well,
Thailand.
and hey, listeners, that's not that far from where Karen is now. Maybe she will do a special giveaway where you can get some elephant excrement coffee.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? It's even like he says because it might reduce my need for sleep, right? So, because he keeps wanna keep working on cases. So but all that's an opening for the discussion of the book. And this is again a beautiful monologue by Sherlock. How it's a good thing to be an inspiration or a point of fascination for other people. And I inspire, I am fascinated, I can't help it. So it's
Yeah,
a
he's not mad
byproduct
at
of my
all. And then
success.
there's a brief
Nope.
mention of I'm surprised it was so like just easily mentions of when Watson tried to do her like the casebook of Sherlock Holmes. It was like a 2 second conversation between them, and they moved right on from it.
Yes. Yes. And I think it also helps Joan sort of turn a corner around on her dad, which is because I think it gives her validation that I have made a good choice to be a detective. Because if if you do good work, it can be if being a point of inspiration is not a bad thing, even if it comes out in sort of not bad novels. It's still it's a good position to be in. So yeah, that sort of helps her realize that it's not there's no point to being outraged. If you inspire people, then this can only be a good thing.
One thing I took from the scene
So
was, and I never thought you don't think about this, is that
yeah,
of course it makes you because of course it's Sherlock Holmes to us. A book existing about Sherlock Holmes makes sense, but we forget that he exists in his own universe and he is semi-known. So it's an interesting idea that people would write about him and be inspired by him.
yeah. So that's why he's not shocked. That's why she why didn't you bring it up earlier? Because this happens all the time. I inspire people every day, apparently.
And so things get really twisted when the girl shows up at the brownstone.
Oh my gosh, yes. And you see how good a con artist she is. She has something, as she comes in already with new setup, right? Of why this thing is unfolding this way. And yeah, you're on to me. I'm not the daughter, but this is, she had a setup for because the parents killed the daughter and the father is like, being a little bit creepy towards her and I just want the money and that's a great sign of a great great con artistry.
Yes, indeed. So she tries to use misdirection and some half truths to try to sway him. And a funny thing for a second, I thought
Yep.
the story might have been true, and it reminds me of the adventures of Blue, because Sherlock would to catch a killer would let her even a con artist get away with the money if it meant catching a couple child killers. It
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of Blue Carbuncle when he let the thief just run away instead of turning it over to the police. Because, as he said, he's not a cop, so it's not really his job to report crimes. He can crack them, but he doesn't have to report them.
Yep, that's how I think Sherlock knows what's a more valuable result over some things like money getting away sometimes, especially because he hates a lot of rich people, and if more money can be taken away from them, then all the better.
Yes, and what I like here is I like how instantly like both Holmes wants to know she's lying, and then he gives her the flashback, and you gotta love how Watson doesn't even like bat an eye to the fact that he says, yes, I gave her a flashback. I'm gonna let off in her house.
Yes, and I mean, how fast do you think Sherlock thought of that when she's telling this story? Give her time. Okay, I'll give you listening devices. One's a fake listening device. I mean, when did he? I mean, I think we saw that in real time where the girl comes, she tells her story, and then they had send her off her way. And already, Sherlock already has a plan on how to sort out a way into the house to get the DNA and all that. So that's really, I love that piece of writing during when I was watching the episode.
Yes. So they use it to search the house, and they actually do manage to find blood on one of his petals. But before that, we get a little insight into Watson's father and why she's so resentful. Turns out he cheated on her mother, and that's
Yeah.
obviously a factor in how she feels about the book.
Yes, and so I think it was just the book. Part of it was this is a book around about her that's not true, and she thinks makes fun of their work. At the same time, her father is, she had deeper issues of the relationship of her stepfather and her mother, and that's affecting what she thinks about this, what her stepfather's book. So that's also an interesting thing. And we also, before, in this scene where Belle and Gregson are just carrying on like, oh, the bomb has been being investigated. We don't know how it got planted. There's no footprints, or that it could have been brought in by somebody else into the house. But we know we know who put the bomb there, the flashbang there, and maybe there'll be a second episode where Belle finally sorts out that it was Sherlock who gave the girl and the flashbang device, and he might arrest Sherlock. I don't know, but that was might be a funny outcome of that whole sequence.
So they start looking into it, and they find out that Jiminy has confessed. So, but Holmes decides to let him do it because that means they can compel a DNA sample. But
Yes.
the DNA sample matches, which is very confusing.
Yep, that
too.
tripped me up when I was watching this. Yeah. So so that's another challenge, that they have to find out how the DNA matches. And I don't that's where I also got confused, because I don't know why they weren't comparing the DNA, the direct DNA of Cassie, the fake Mina, to the parents, right? Because that should show some kind of DNA commonality. But instead, they were comparing it to the original DNA of the girl who went missing. So that confused me a bit. I don't know why they were not just comparing it to the
easier
parents.
to get a sample
I guess
they already
because
have.
yeah, and I think because and when they initially found the girl, the parents did give a sample, and they couldn't get one from her because she was too frightened and traumatized. So they just used the hair. So that's the first wave, and then the second wave was this new second DNA test where they still compared it to the sample, but again, I guess a third DNA would have shown that this daughter's not related to them at all. But yeah, that was an interesting lesson in how they investigate DNA.
Now, I like to say when I talk about theories, because you mentioned earlier too, but it's like if you early Holmes would have just shot Bell down, but this one he actually tries to spare his feelings.
That's so funny. I mean, the actor who plays Belle must be like, I have to practice all my "what you talking about" face to Sherlock each time. Yes, like, I have a theory, a better one. Oh, I think one you like. I'm sure you'll really like it. And yeah, you know what? I like Sherlock's theory when what he worked out is to find the actual real Mina in all of that, to make sure that the parents sort of disconnect from this con artist. So yeah, it really is a better theory.
You know what? How they got to that theory made me think of the old Sherlock Holmes saying, "Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true." And when they started from the fact that the DNA had to have come from somewhere, and the only way that means she must be alive, and they went from there, which led them to a girl getting attacked with a straight razor, which obviously is not a common case.
Yes.
Which leads them to find out that the girl is still alive, and they actually find her. And I let them. Oh, the mother in this scene was quite good.
Yes. So the guest stars of this episode were Catherine Erbe and Raphael Sbarge, who we see a lot in TV series. I think the Catherine Erbe was in Law and Order for a long time, and Raphael Sbarge, he plays this weaselly guy in many shows, and normally you would peg him as the culprit
the second
of
I saw who the
anything.
parents are, I'm like, is this gonna be relevant?
So it's a good misdirection from the usual, the guest star did it, a cliche, right?
But one thing I just find funny, because the city where they said she really was
Oh yeah, it's a
And
Massachusetts
it's
city. Yeah.
barely an hour or so from me. So I'm like, I know where it is.
Maybe you could have set up your own con and gotten
Oh
5 million in trust fund. Yeah, so that was really a well acted scene, and I like the elegance of Sherlock's solution of finding the real daughter. That was just I think quintessential smart detecting. So that was really and that's so far from where we started, which is baggies of gross body parts, and now we're here in this beautiful reconnection of a parent and a daughter. So so it's such a well designed episode, well directed. I mean, we forgot to mention earlier that the scene where Sherlock and the con artist Cassie are discussing, and she's lying, and the parents finding out that that's not their daughter is off screen, and they pan to it, and that's normally we would see both sides of the conversation. I mean, both sides of both sequences, but the direction was that they kept it on Sherlock and the girl, and then the parents come barging in. That's a really, really great bit of direction from the episode.
Yes. So from then, Watson goes and visits her father, and they have a sort of They have a reconciliation because Watson realized she wasn't really that bad. It was more about the cheating that he once did. And she gives him permission to show the
Yes.
books. I love this. She gives him back the newest manuscript with correction.
Well, you know what? If I'm gonna be an inspiration, might as well, up the inspiration factor in the book and make it, more factual or more exciting. And I'm sure she gave insight on some cases that they've done that would be great novels for
Exactly.
the dad to write.
So after they have their scene, we also get Sherlock and Cassie. And this scene to
Yes.
me was very reminiscent of season one, The Balloon Man.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So when Sherlock's confronted with somebody who has their own cards to play, it's well played, and it gives so much intrigue because we don't know so much about what where the girl's coming from, where what she knows, how she knows what she knows, is she lying, and yeah, and we can see from both performers that will Cassie come back, you think, in a later
I don't know. I said
episode?
the same thing about the Balloon Man, but we haven't seen him again, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, at least her fingerprints are now in APHIS. So if she does get away and not get convicted of this FBI murder, at least her fingerprints are on record, and it should be, that's one less advantage she'll have
Yes, one thing I like
because
is Sherlock is actually impressed by her,
yes.
and it just fascinates me.
And yeah, and to see this fascination unfold is again great TV, wonderful to watch. And yeah, it's a really well designed episode from start to finish. Even without Moreland,
Not
and
even a reference to him, which
it
I find
is
interesting.
what did you
They
find
don't
interesting?
even. It's like yeah, not at
Reference him.
all.
Yeah. Well, maybe Moreland's not in New
No,
York
I liked it
at
though,
that
because so
moment.
it shows it doesn't have to do the overreaching story like every single day.
Yes. So yep, it's a strong episode, and just imagine, if we have Moreland in the upcoming episodes, the writers are on a roll, I
Yes,
think.
indeed. So yeah, that.
And sorry, I also wanted to say that remember we talked before about how most of the episodes of Elementary have this Agatha Christie style exposition where they just mention the laundry list of this is what happened, so this is why you're guilty and you're now being arrested. We didn't have that in this show. That's how well designed this episode was. We didn't even have to do that kind of exposition dump that usually ends a lot of Elementary episodes, and we got to see it unfold without exposition. So I also appreciated that about this episode.
Yes, I agree. So those are what you think. And now, before I go into my thoughts, I'll do my favorite line. That's, of course, you may mention it from Watson. Is that is how you make a porn name, not a pen name. Her delivery of that was so awesome.
Yes. Yes. My favorite line is, why there's no wood
Hmm.
chipper in here. When the girl shows up at their door and says, "Can I come in?" And Sherlock says, "There's no wood chipper in here, maybe."
So
So that
I,
was
to
really
me,
funny.
this episode was good. It was I don't even know how to describe it. It was so multi-tiered, had plot twist and turns. But in the end, it connected. It made sense. I did not see it coming.
Yes. And well, why did you think you
Well,
didn't
she
see it
didn't think.
coming?
Well, once I knew about the hair, I thought the daughter might still be alive, but I wasn't sure what was true, like who knew what. But then when we revealed, it's the end result is just simple. She was just a con artist, and the FBI agent found her out, so she killed him.
Yeah. Yep. So that it's a well sort of how it tied in together in the end really came true, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is that it for
So
you?
and one more final thought was, yeah, I like that we got to see Sherlock
Yes.
Giddy in this episode. That was a great pleasure. Let's give some credit to the actress who played Cassie slash Mina. I think her name is Ali Ionides, and she went toe to toe with Sherlock. That's not hard. That's not
Exactly.
easy. It's quite hard, and this episode gave us that. So and I mentioned earlier, lastly, that how episode is about fathers rediscovering their daughters, and their daughters might not be the daughter they turned out or expected to be, or sometimes not even the real daughter that they expected. And there's a third father-daughter reunion that we don't get to see, because I think when the dad recants, I think he'll see his real daughter again. So again, even there's a crime, there's a B plot, but it has sort of the same spine, is a mark of excellent writing, and above that excellent writing, we have great actors bringing it to life, and I think this is really an A plus episode for me. So that's my thought on
I think
Mistaken.
that sums it up pretty good. So what I said and all that. So I think we're good to depart, don't you? All right.
Yes.
Till
Till the next
I
adventure.
cannot wait to see what's going on with the father. That's what I'm looking like here. But until then,
Yeah.
listeners, the game is afoot.